live from the National News Studio, Sri Lanka.
Stories around the world, stories here at home. This is the National News broadcast bringing to you live from the National News Studios here at Rupavahini. We are ready to bring you the top stories here at home and around the world. I'm Charita Vinipurarachi.
And I'm Kasani Balachandra Adhikari. We start off with a look at your headlines of tonight.
The second reading of the budget passed with two-thirds majority. The President discussed the current security situation in the country with top defense officials. Mother and brother of the main female suspect of Ganemula Sanjeeva killing detained. The cabinet spokesman says underworld gang activities are not a threat to national security. A complaint has been lodged to the CID regarding the frauds committed at the National Youth Services Council. Teachers and principals are included among the 10 highest salary scales. Ceasefire in the Gaza Strip heightens.
And we move on to those and other stories in detail in your top local story tonight. The speech reserved for the government of Sri Lanka at the 58th session of the Human Rights Council of United Nations is due for today. The speech will be delivered by Minister Vijitha Herath.
And I would like to give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Vijitha Herath, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Sri Lanka. You have the floor, Excellency.
At the elections held a few months ago, the people of Sri Lanka elected a new government with a strong mandate to direct the country towards economic, social and political transformation. The results of these elections reflected a unified voice from people of all regions of the country, ethnicities and religions. The current parliament is the most inclusive in our history with a record number of women, including 2 from the Malayagat community and a visually impaired person. This inclusivity represents Sri Lanka's new path focused on upholding the rights of all its people, irrespective of gender, ethnicity or other grounds. The economic crisis affected all segments of the population, especially the poorest and the most vulnerable. Having stabilized the economy, the government is currently in the process of laying the foundation toward economic transformation and greater economic democratization through fair distribution of opportunities. We are acutely aware of the continuing impact of the economic challenges on our people, particularly the most vulnerable, and decisive steps are being taken to advance their economic and social rights. In the national budget for 2025, we have committed to a series of measures to extend much needed relief to the people, including increased allocation for social welfare and security. The fundamental and long-standing principles of democracy and freedom enshrined in our Constitution will be respected and safeguarded while protecting the human rights of all citizens. We will ensure that the domestic processes established to address remaining challenges from the conflict will continue their work in an independent and credible manner. Domestic institutions such as the Office on Missing Persons, Office for Reparations and Office for National Unity and Reconciliation will be strengthened. Our aim is to make the domestic mechanisms credible and sound within the constitutional framework. The government is fully cognizant of the responsibility that accompanies the people's mandate to fulfill the aspirations for a just, fair and prosperous society. Sri Lanka stands ready to support this council in addressing the pressing global challenges in a balanced and holistic manner in line with the founding principles of universality, impartiality, objectivity and non-selectivity. We believe that states must be encouraged and empowered to address their challenges through robust national human rights frameworks, supplemented by assistance upon request. We will continue to work in a constructive spirit of dialogue and cooperation with the UN and this Council within our national legal framework.
And meanwhile, the second reading of the budget 2025 passed in Parliament today with a two-thirds majority. Budget of the second reading was held in the Parliament throughout the day. Parliamentarian Ranjit Madhubandara questioned the government what have they changed in the country by now.
Prime Minister Dr. Hani Amarasuriya said that when we compare the bankrupt situation of the country and the social crisis, at the time the government was elected, there were two options. That is to face the challenge or to retreat. We accepted the option to save the country. The government considered the crisis as an opportunity. Accordingly, we all bravely took decisions to build up the country, disregarding all barriers. The government is now determined to develop the country, and this budget is a milestone of this journey.
Minister Bimal Ratnayaka said that the country faced this crisis mainly due to the wrong decisions taken by the former governments. According to a research conducted by the Variety Research, points out that Sri Lanka's approval rating is over 62%. Majority of people are confident over the economic outlook of the country. According to the same research, 52% believe that the country is getting better and the government can manage the economy well. At the report issued by the Public Finance Committee today, the GDP is increasing and the inflation is decreasing. When considering the exchange rates, rupee has stabilized against the US dollar, and the COPA committee report further says that the gap between the debt and GDP has reduced up to 98%. He says that the government has won the hearts of the people and the confidence of the international community. It has successfully gained the economic management. The government will take the country forward with the help of the people. Following the debate, the voting of the second reading commenced. Speaker Dr. Jagat Vikramratne said that 155 votes for the budget and 46 votes against it. Accordingly, the second reading of the Appropriation Bill 2025 has passed with a majority of 109 votes.
A discussion on Sri Lanka's current security situation was held today at the Presidential Secretariat under the leadership of President Andra Kumara Dissanayake. The meeting, attended by senior officials of Sri Lanka Army, focused on the future measures regarding the security situation in Sri Lanka. Amongst those present were Deputy Minister of Defence Aruna Jayasekara, Secretary to the President Dr. Nandika Sanathkumarayaka, Secretary to the Ministry of Defence Air Vice Marshal Sampath Toyakonta, and Commander of the Army Lieutenant General Lasantha Rodrigo, along with several senior officials of Sri Lanka Army.
The Colombo Crimes Division today informed the Colombo Magistrates Court that the mother and brother of the main female suspect to be taken into custody regarding the assassination of Ganemula Sanjeeva is being interrogated after being held under detention orders. The officials of the Colombo Crimes Division informed the court that it has been revealed during investigations that the male suspect and the female suspect who are being produced before the court were aware of this incident but concealed information. The police informed the court that the main female suspect has done money transactions from the arrested mother's bank account and had purchased clothes from Negombo area after the incident, again from her mother's bank account. Police media spokesman SSP Buddhika Manatunga said that so far 10 suspects have been taken into police custody in connection with the killing of the criminal Ganemula Sanjeeva. Action will be taken in the future in order to arrest the persons who conducted this crime. At the same time, the police seek the coordination of the general public to arrest the woman who is a party to the crime along with the shooter. The IGP has decided to award an amount of 1 million rupees for any person who will provide accurate information in this regard. The Colombo Magistrate Court also ordered to detain a suspect until 6th of next month who had been charged with aiding and abetting in the incident of assassinating a person by firing at a mobile phone sale outlet at Kotahena area. Police media spokesman SSP Buddhika Manadunga said that investigations regarding the triple murder occurred at the Middini area are being carried out successfully. 5 persons have been taken into custody so far in this connection and they are being interrogated after detention. According to the investigations conducted so far regarding this incident shows that instructions have been given for the crimes from a foreign country. Army officers who deserted the army and police officers have been taken into custody so far in this connection.
Cabinet spokesman Minister Dr. Nalindu Jayatissa says that the activities of the underworld gangs are not a threat to the national security. He requests the media institutions not to apply reason to members of underworld gangs. The minister made these remarks at the press briefing held today to announce the cabinet decisions. Minister Dr. Nalin Jyotis has said that some opposition parliamentarians has made it a habit to tell the national security is in danger and to give voice cuts to media. There is no whatsoever threat to the national security by these isolated incidents of disputes among organized crime gangs. The government has taken measures to conduct intensive investigations into these incidents. Then, the politicians related to these incidents will be unveiled. He said that he couldn't exactly reveal them through these investigations. However, in future, all secrets will be unveiled and all who are connected to these incidents will be brought to book. Unlike the past regime, this government will not protect criminals. It will definitely establish law and order in the country. Government will not allow any group or person to kill people, rob money or engage in corruption. It is committed to enforce law and order strictly and safeguard all citizens. After the investigations are completed, all relevant details will be revealed. Now there is no time to introduce new laws to curb crimes. Therefore, maximum efforts will be taken under the existing laws to curb criminal gangs. However, measures have already been taken to introduce a draft bill to strengthen national security. The government cannot accept the allegations levelled by Udayagama Bhida regarding the intelligence information on Easter Sunday attack. The government requests the media institutions not to apply heroism to money-centered criminals.
And meanwhile, the Cabinet of Ministers granted approval to the resolution forwarded by the Minister of Rural Development, Social Security and Community Empowerment, Professor Upali Pannilage, to implement the Praja Shakti program as a consolidated program with a multiple approach so that the vision of the wealthy country secure life can be achieved as per the policy declaration of the new government. One individual from every 6 individuals from the total population of Sri Lanka at present experience multi-dimensional poverty, and 95.3% of the population are living in rural and estate-related environments. It is apparent that none of the parties are satisfied with the final outcome of any of the programs to eradicate poverty executed in Sri Lanka up to now, when opinions on the matter is probed. During the past 5 decades, the number of poverty eradication relief programs and the number of beneficiaries have been escalated as well, and the amount spent for them have also been hiked. By the year 2000, the number of beneficiaries were 1.10 million, whereby the year 2010 the amount has hiked up to 1.57 million. Also, by the year 2024, the amount has further swelled up to 1.79 million. Since continuation of this situation for extended periods, a well-planned program should be implemented to direct the vulnerable groups to a formal security social program and utilize the others as active stakeholders in the economic process. It has been identified that the supervision and coordination activities conducted by the project management unit of the Colombo Port City Development Project should be further continued. Accordingly, the Cabinet of Ministers has approved the proposal presented by President Anuruddha Kumar Dissanayake to extend the operational time for the said project management unit of the Colombo Port City Development Project until the 5th June 2027. It was designed to amend the Chicago Convention, enabling the prevention of the use of weapons by state parties against a civil aircraft in flight, and the relevant alliance paper of Article 3 bis of the Chicago Convention. Accordingly, policy approval has been given by the Cabinet of Ministers to proposals presented by the Minister of Transport, Highways and Civil Aviation Bimal Ratnayake to access to the said alliance paper. The Cabinet has approved the proposal presented by Ministers Saroja Savitri Polraj to implement the programs at the national, provincial, district and divisional levels, including the commemoration of International Women's Day nationally, having declared from the 2nd of March to the 8th of this year 2025 by declaring a National Women's Week with the theme Building a Sustainable Tomorrow, Her Strength is the Path, in line with the commemoration of International Women's Day. Approval of the Cabinet had been granted to establish the Gambling Regulation Authority as an independent establishment with a board and a complete subject arena to standardize gambling institutions, minimize social damage, promotion of tourism sector and ensure economic growth. The legal draftsman has informed that the concurrence of the current Cabinet of Ministers is sought to continue the process of drafting bills. Therefore, the Cabinet also granted approval to the resolution furnished by President Dissanayake to grant the policy approval of the Cabinet of Ministers for formulating the said draft bill with immediate effect.
Minister Dr. Nalin Jyotis says that former President Ranil Wickremesinghe is obliged to bring Arjun Mahendran to face the bond scam case. Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayanthish has said that there's a certain legal problem in bringing Arjun Mahendran to the country. The government is taking maximum efforts in this connection, and despite his presence, the case will be proceeded. When Ranil Wickremesinghe was Prime Minister, he once said in Parliament that Arjun Mahendran left the country to take part in a wedding. Now that as a former president, he has an obligation to bring him back to the country, whether he was brought or not, the legal proceedings against him will be carried out. Ranil Wickremesinghe seems to be having a deep relationship with Arjun Mahendran beyond appearance. Therefore, he will have to answer many questions relating to the bond scam process during the legal proceedings. There's a question on how Ranil Wickremesinghe granted leave to Arjun Mahendran, as he was the governor of the central bank at that time.
And meanwhile, a complaint was launched at the CID today requesting an investigation regarding the frauds committed at the National Youth Services Council as revealed before the COP committee. The complaint was made by the Citizens Bar Organization Against Frauds. The organization points out that a sum of 535 million rupees of the National Youth Services Council has been spent during the last presidential election period and requests to conduct an investigation regarding this matter with immediate effect. Jamani Tushara of the Citizens Bar Organization Against Fraud said that before the COP committee held last week, it was revealed that a sum of over 535 billion rupees have been misappropriated under the program titled Smart Youth by the National Youth Services Council during the regime under President Ranil Wickremesinghe. When the COP committee questioned the NYSC officials, we saw some officials became sentimental and said that if they did not sign, they would have been transferred or dismissed. This is a clear sign of threatening the state officials to be manipulated to conduct this financial fraud. Under the Smart Youth program, a stock of T-shirts have been printed. However, at the invoice, a bill of hardware shop has been attached. For these malpractices, the COP committee cannot take legal actions against the culprits. Therefore, organization made a complaint at the CID to conduct investigations and punish the responsible officers under the Public Property Act.
The government is contemplating on the implementation of a collaborative tourism initiative between the Maldives and Sri Lanka.
And this initiative was discussed today during a meeting at the Presidential Secretariat between President Anurakumara Dissanayake and the High Commissioner of the Republic of Maldives, Masood Imad. During the meeting, the High Commissioner congratulated the government on its recent electoral victory and expressed his satisfaction with the positive changes taking place in the country following the election results. The discussions also emphasized the long-standing 60-year diplomatic relationship between the Maldives and Sri Lanka, focusing on strengthening and advancing the bilateral partnerships. President Anurakumara Dissanayake acknowledged and expressed his appreciation for the Maldives' unique contributions in fortifying the ties between the two nations. The meeting was attended by several senior officials, including Senior Additional Secretary to the President, Prashant Gamage. A meeting between President Anurakumara Dissanayake and the Indonesian ambassador to Sri Lanka, Devi Gustina Tobing, took place today at the Presidential Secretariat. During the discussions, ambassador extended Indonesia's well wishes to the government and reaffirmed Indonesia's commitment to strengthen the 70-year-old friendship between the two nations. The ambassador highlighted that both Sri Lanka and Indonesia recently held simultaneous elections and established new governments. She further stated that Indonesia's current administration will support the Clean Sri Lanka program, noting that measures have been taken to implement a similar initiative in Indonesia. The discussions also focused on establishing vibrant trade agreements and free trade agreements between the two nations, and additionally both parties explored opportunities to expand markets in mutually beneficiary manner. President Dissanayake met with newly appointed head of delegation of the International Committee of the Red Cross Severin Chapsa today at the Presidential Secretariat. Discussions focused on ICRC's support for the new government's policy framework. As a part of the collaboration, the Sri Lanka Red Cross Society has agreed to provide technical assistance and capacity building support to strengthen the Office of Missing Persons. President Dissanayake highlighted that the budget 2025 has allocated funds for ongoing programs related to searching for missing persons. Additionally, the President announced plans to celebrate Sri Lankan Day as a national initiative aimed at fostering unity and strengthening the country's collective identity, transcending ethnic and religious differences. The President expressed his gratitude to the ICRC for its humanitarian operations in Sri Lanka since 1989 and acknowledge its continued commitment to the country.
Despite the constraints of a limited financial framework, President Anukumar Dissanayake emphasized that it is the duty of the government officials to allocate and utilize the funds efficiently and equitably in accordance with the development priorities and the needs of people as outlined in the recent budget.
This matter was underscored during a meeting held today at the Presidential Secretariat, where the President engaged in discussions with the Secretaries of Ministries. The President stated that as a result of the reduction of expenses by the President and the Cabinet, it is also the responsibility of the public to serve and reduce administrative costs in state institutions and minimize wastage. In order to reduce cost within the public service, extensive discussions were held regarding a series of measures. These include the relocation of all government officers to state-owned buildings, the planned auction of high-maintenance ministerial vehicles by March, the removal of unused office equipment, the identification of institutions for closure, merger or transition to public to private partnerships, and to prompt implementation of these strategies.
Colombo High Court today ordered to release the Secretary of the Buddha Balasena organization, Venerable Galagodatte Gnanasarathera, on bail. He was sentenced to 9 months simple imprisonment with regards to insulting the Islam religion. The High Court has taken this decision considering an appeal submitted by the Thera. Venerable Galagodatte Gnanasarathera was declared as a convict with regard to a case filed against him causing defamation to Islam religion at a media briefing held in Colombo in 2016. Accordingly, under an order issued on the 9th of January this year, the suspect was convicted with a 9-month simple imprisonment and a fine of 1,500 rupees. The Thera had filed an appeal against this verdict. Considering the petition, High Court Judge Mapa Bandara ordered the convict to be released on 50,000 rupees cash bail and on 2 personal bails, each worth 1 million rupees.
And meanwhile, attention has been paid to the government service in today's budget feature. The 2025 budget has set aside 295.82 billion rupees for a people-friendly government service. An amount of 69.26 billion rupees have been allocated for social services, which are being operated under district and provincial secretariat offices. An amount of 21.48 billion rupees for the free and fair elections have been allocated, while 16.98 billion rupees have been earmarked for the executive and the constitution. 75.37 billion rupees have been set aside for the finance and 19.28 billion rupees for foreign affairs and 81.24 billion rupees for providing public services through the provincial councils. Steps have been taken to allocate 5.11 billion rupees for government printing and publication purposes. Digitalization of government services has received 7.1 billion rupees from the budget. The 2025 budget has allocated an amount of 43.87 billion rupees for personal salaries in the district administrative sector, which comprises around 60,000 employees attached to 25 district secretariat officers and 332 provincial secretariat officers. Meanwhile, for the implementation of the project for strengthening government financial management, an amount of 0.9 billion rupees have been set aside. An amount of 20 billion rupees have been earmarked for the conducting elections and another 0.3 billion rupees for the purpose of registering voters and for the awareness program for them. In a democratic society, in order to ensure welfare, a 1.37 billion rupee grant has been set aside for the purpose of activating the 2023 number 9 Anti-Corruption Act. Chairman of the National Paper Company, Upali Ratnayaka, said that there is a huge drawback for citizens in joining the government service. Special attention has been drawn to this matter in order to fulfill the shortcomings present in their structures, and a special fund has been allocated for the purpose. Deputy General Manager of National Water Supply and Drainage Board, Ekanayak Veerasinghe, pointed out that a huge amount of funds have been allocated.
Prime Minister Dr. Hani Amarasuriya says that measures have been taken to include the salaries of teachers and principals amongst the 10 highest salaries. Addressing the Parliament today, she stated that salary scale of principals are at the 7th place, while the teachers' salary scale is at the 8th place in the top 10 most paid list. The Prime Minister said that a parliamentarian had complained that the government has not included the salary scales of teachers amongst the top 10 salary scales. With the salary increase, a salary scale of the principals are at the 7th place and teachers are at the 8th place. Salary of principals has been increased by 30,105 rupees and the salary of teachers has been increased by 25,360 rupees. The minimum salary has increased by 15,750 rupees.
And meanwhile, the annual language certificate award ceremony of the Bandaranaike Centre for International Studies was held yesterday at the BMICH premises. Nearly 300 students who successfully completed language courses in Arabic, Chinese, French, German, Hindi, Japanese, Korean, Spanish, Tamil and Sinhala received their certificates at this event. Director of the Russian House and the first secretary of the Embassy of the Russian Federation in Sri Lanka, Maria Popova, and Chair, Professor and Head Department of Commercial Law, Faculty of Law, the University of Colombo, Professor Nazima Kamaruddin was also the guest of honor at this event. Director of the Alliance Franchise de Cote and Ms. G. Lili, Chinese Cultural Counselor, Embassy of the People's Republic of China, Cecily Hurbekel, and Ware was present at this ceremony.
Learning languages, I think, will be personally and professionally valuable to you in many ways. It could give you a better chance when you are negotiating business deals or managing transnational teams.
I know that learning a foreign language is always a big challenge, especially when this language doesn't look like yours, it sounds differently, it moves you differently, but on the other hand, it always opens up so many opportunities for you. Not only in terms of maybe business or going on overseas on foreign studies, but it's also always about discovering yourself.
Ambassador of Japan to Sri Lanka, Akio Isomata, presented the Order of the Rising Sun Gold and Silver Race to former President of JICA Alumni Association and former President of Sasakawa Trust, Chitra Javadana, in recognition of his distinguished contribution in promoting friendly relations and mutual understanding between Japan and Sri Lanka. The ceremony took place at the Embassy Hall, where Chitra Javadana was warmly congratulated by many of his family members and loved ones in attendance. Ambassador Isomata praised Chitra Javadana for his tireless efforts as a founding member and former president of the JICA Alumni Association, playing a key role in building a strong network among JICA returnees and promoting Japan's contributions in Sri Lanka. Through his leadership, the association has not only strengthened ties amongst its members, but also broadened its activities, organizing events such as Sri Lanka and Japan Night.
This year, 2025, marks 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. Last month, I had a chance to visit Trincomalee, where I also visited a place where a Japanese fighter plane crashed into one of the oil tanks there some 80 years ago, which reminded me of a very sad history involving Japan and Sri Lanka. But Japan started from scratch after the war for post-war reconstruction and rapid development. But at the base, foundation of this Japanese post-war reconstruction, there is Sri Lanka. We never forget this, because J.R. Jawadana, His Excellency, made a very moving speech at the peace conference, expressing strong support for Japan's independence and Japan becoming a free country while relinquishing its own reparation claims of a steadfast bilateral relationship. There are so many layers of relationship between Japan and Sri Lanka, and after coming to Sri Lanka, I'm always amazed at the breadth and width and depth of a relationship. And Mr. Chitra is one of the founders of those excellent layers of a relationship.
Traditional Kandyan dancer Peter Surasena, who rendered a remarkable contribution to the Kandiya Perahara festival for more than 50 years, has passed away at the age of 85.
Peter Surasena, who studied dancing under Amunukama Suraba, Guru Danse, Nittavela Gunaya, Nittavela Ukuwa, and Tittapattala Suraba was a dancing teacher. He has been the dancing teacher of Vidyaloka Vidyalaya Gaul, St. Sylvester's College Kandy, and 5 other private schools in Colombo, and was also the dancing teacher for a number of local and foreign persons. Surasena, who had jointly joined the Kandy and Danada Perahara a number of years back, featured in the dances of Katharagama, Pattini, and Vishnu Devala processions also. Since 1975, he has performed in the presence of Devada Nilame of the Kandy Perahara, offered maximum contribution for the colourful Perahara festival. He is a father of 5 children, and performing along with 3 of his sons in the Kandy Perahara has been a special feature too. Peter Surasena has received the President's Award from all the Presidents, commencing from President J.R. Jayawardena. He has also toured a number of foreign countries, and the Sesatha Surasena Arts Academy, started by him at Arupala, is functioning till date. The remains of late artist Peter Surasena is kept at the Arupala Arts Academy, and the funeral will be held at the Mahayaval Crematorium in Kandy at 8 p.m. tomorrow. Stay tuned with international news after this break.
In your foreign news tonight, Hamas says talks with Israel about further steps in the Gaza ceasefire deal are conditional on Palestinian prisoners being freed as agreed. Israel has said that it was delaying the release of more than 600 Palestinians in return for 6 living and 4 dead hostages who had been freed, accusing Hamas of repeated violations, including humiliating handover ceremonies. A senior Hamas official said that the decision exposed the entire agreement to grave danger and called on mediators, especially the US, to pressure Israel. The deal's first phase and temporary 6-week truce is set to expire on Saturday, but indirect negotiations on the second phase and an end to the war have not yet begun.
Prima Kutumi, Fantamai.
And in your sports news tonight, 100 Sri Lanka International Challenge Badminton Tournament commenced in Colombo today.
This is the biggest international badminton tournament held in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka Badminton Association has organized this along with the Asian Badminton Association. The tournament, which has been organized at the St. Joseph's Indoor Stadium, Maradana, will end on the 5th of March. Over 550 men and women players representing 28 countries will participate in this tournament. The most number of players participate for the men's single events. 224 contestants have applied for these events, and games will be held as women's single, men's and women's doubles and mixed doubles. And with that, we conclude tonight's news. Do it just tomorrow at the very same time. I'm Charita, signing off with Kasuni. Stay safe and good night.
Good night.